No one here is a simp but
Oh,
you and
subscribe
Rob.
to my Patreon?
But you and Rob.
Don't add me into that.
Kev is definitely a bigger simp than you.
No way. No way. That's false.
You never know what someone's going to do in their day to day.
I need to block this out. You lose yourself, but then you become the person you didn't want to become.
I truly believe in people. I think people can do a lot of good when they're offered the opportunity.
Welcome back to the Loft. If you guys enjoy this episode, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know who you want on the pod next. Today's a very special occasion. You gotta pick which one.
The energy.
The bestseller. We're gonna light this one up today. It's like the new, the labels are glossy now.
This was my favorite one when you showed me them, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I like the...
Can you reach? My cords are all. Yeah.
These sell it's
Thank you.
really fast, which is nice. Beautiful people in the house tonight for this pod. I'm so excited.
Doesn't get any more better looking than us.
That is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Loft. This lady needs no introduction. One of my best friends. I can't even do this seriously. Mady Thompson. Welcome to the pod, Mady.
Thanks for having me.
So excited. Move the mic a little closer. Good. I want to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Rob,
Yep.
I can hear you.
You always can hear me.
Can hear from a mile away. All right, but yeah, Mady, I love you.
Love you too.
Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
I know it was a little bit of a little bit difficult, I guess, for you to come on because you're here for a reason that I've never heard you really open up about. I don't know if Rob either.
No.
I know you guys talked a little bit before, but I know you wanted to come on and you're willing to share your story about your dad who passed away when you're, how old were you?
13.
13. I know it was a very traumatic experience in your life, and the reason why I wanted to have you on was I always knew that it was something that was a part of your life and your family's life. And recently, when I went to your cousin's wedding, I got to meet like her brothers more and like your family. And a lot the common theme that I noticed was that they're talking about your dad, and I realized how important he was to you and everything. So I want to kind of get more context behind the story and everything that happened and kind of learn more about you, because like me and you are super close. We're as close as it gets. Sometimes too close. We want to rip each other's heads off, but like but no, I'm seriously just want to like know more about what happened in your story and how it turned you into the woman you are today, and how involved you become with the Grace Project, and you've been doing such an amazing job and killing it. I just wanted to learn a little bit more. So
It's like the awkward part where now I have to talk about myself. I don't know, yeah. So like you said, I was 13, so it's been 10 years. Obviously, the Grace Project's gala ended up falling on my dad's 10-year anniversary.
mm-hmm.
So my birthday's in March, so like I just turned 13 a month prior to my dad's passing. And then obviously, my brothers are younger than me, so they were, I think 8 and 9.
Yeah.
So they were really, really young.
I didn't realize how young your brothers were.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think a lot of people fail to realize how young they are, especially
Yeah.
because they look older than me.
I thought Scott. So Chris is like big body, like about to go to Westchester, and then Scott's like he's not as big. I thought Scott was the younger brother, and Scott was like, "Are you dead ass?"
Like that's Chris, the youngest one, and then that's Scott.
Dude's like 18.
Chris
Jesus.
is like
He's
6'3",
35.
Chris is like
Kid's a
6'3",
beast.
6'4", and then Scott's like real just tall and skinny, but like he's obviously met them. Like when you meet them, like people always think, especially because of like me being so short, like they always think that they're much older than me. Like Chris came with me to move into Temple because I like lived on campus freshman year, and you remember like when you went to Temple like freshman year, like not orientation
when you move
like,
into the dorms
week, and they have like all like the fair, I guess it's
Yep.
called.
Yeah.
Everyone was addressing him, and they were like, "Oh, so like, what are you gonna do here?" And he was like, he was in 8th grade at the time. He was literally in 8th grade.
He's like, "Oh, go to high school."
And like, it was funny because the one game thing, like, they were like, "Oh, like, what's this about Temple?" And like, Chris knew more than me.
That's
but
funny.
yeah, so they were really young at the time. Obviously, if I was starting college and he was only in 8th grade, like, imagine when I was 13. Like, he was young.
Mm-hmm.
And like I still like vividly like I feel like when you lose someone that close to you, and I feel like you could probably relate to this, you never forget that day. Like, you could recall event by event, like, word by word. You could give a literal full play-by-play of what happened the day.
Yeah.
Like, that you lose the person. And it's just, like, it does, I feel like, for me at least, because I was at an age where I do remember everything, I do have that memory more, obviously, but I remember...
It's more vivid for you.
Yeah. Like, the boys, I don't think that they really remember too much about that day, but I remember, like, seeing my dad sick. Like, I was the last person to actually have a conversation with my dad. And, like, I think part of everything with, like, losing him, like, for a long time, I blamed myself because I was like, I should have realized sooner that something wasn't right. I shouldn't have waited as long as I did to, like, say something. At the time, my mom was, like, working, like, a day shift. It was a Sunday. It was April 29th, 2012. It was a Sunday. I went to soccer, and as I was about to leave for soccer, that was the last conversation I had with my dad. And, like, thank God it was, like, a good conversation. Like, it ended on, I love you, good luck at your game. And I was like, love you too, see you later. And then I remember coming home, and I remember he just didn't really, like, look right. And my brothers were outside playing. Like, obviously, the neighborhoods have changed now, but, like, at that point, like, we were all outside 24/7. It wasn't, like, tablet kids. Like, no, we were outside playing
playing stickball, freedom and shit.
Yeah. So, you know, you were always outside. And I remember coming home, and I remember, like, him not really looking well, but I remember he still had a pulse. And, like, from an early age, like, I always knew I wanted to help people. So, like, at that point, like, I already had my CPR certification. And I think that was, like, another reason, like, I blame myself because I was like, I knew something was wrong. Like, I should have tried doing something, but, you know, I was young. Obviously, I'm not to blame, and, like, I've learned that through the years. But I feel like when you lose someone close, it's kind of easy to blame yourself almost.
For sure.
And that's something you just have to, like, stray away from. But yeah, that was that. And I remember when my mom got home from work, and then my dad wasn't responsive to her. And I remember her calling the ambulance and her telling me to walk my brothers to the store. And I've had, like, a cell phone since I was 8. Like, I was spoiled in that sense. I literally got my first cell phone at 8.
She had a Razor?
I did.
See? Exactly.
It was the maroon Razor, actually. It was the coolest one.
Give me a break. Nah, I had a juke. I had it looked like a fucking comb. You know what I'm talking about, the juke?
Like the slide up one?
Yeah.
It was real thin,
That came
right?
out after.
Oh, dude, they were the
That's
worst.
what everyone had at, like, 11.
Yeah.
And it was green and black or, like, white and blue, right? Those ones?
It was red and gray, and then there was a blue and gray one. I had the red one. Yeah, what he's laughing at, dog? Rob had a fucking Firefly. Loser.
I don't even know what that is. You're showing your age here.
Oh, but dude.
But yeah, so I had my phone, and I remember, like my uncle called me. He was like, I'm outside. Look, we're going to go. I don't know if you're, like, the Sheffield.
Yeah.
It was a bar, like, in Northeast, like, Holmesburg area. And everyone, like, my cousins were all there. I don't know if it was, like, maybe, like, they had, like, a softball tournament or something. They were all there drinking.
Right.
So we went, and I remember sitting there with one of my cousin's friends and his girlfriend. And my brothers were playing pool, and I remember hearing the one friend walk in and saying, the kid's dad just died. And I heard that, and, like, that's how I found out that my dad passed. And I remember hearing it and being like, I freaked out. Like, you obviously know me really well at this point. Like, if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And I feel like I've always been like that. But I remember saying, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you saying that? Like, where are my brothers? Like, they can't hear you say that. Like, they're so young. What are you talking about? And I remember, like, kind of just freaking out. And, like, once I, like, saw where my brothers were, I, like, ran outside. I called my mom, and I was like, please tell me that what they're saying right now isn't true. And I remember just hearing my mom crying. And, like, at that point, I just broke. And, like, I remember literally just sitting crying my eyes out outside of the bar. And obviously at this point, like, my cousin's, like, coming to grab me. My other cousin's grabbing my brothers. And we all kind of went back to my GG's. And I remember just, like, consistently calling my mom and being like, please tell me this isn't true. This isn't true. And, like, she just was crying. Like, how do you, like, my mom was young too. And, like, she was with my dad for how long? Like,
it's your mom's soulmate.
yeah, she still hasn't moved on. And, you know, I joke with her all the time. I'm like, come on, Mom, like, go find someone with a rich shore house. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But, you know, at her age, she was young. Like, they were 33. My dad was 33 when he passed. Like,
it's young. I mean, even for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you're what? Only like 5 years old?
25. Rob, it was just your birthday, motherfucker. You're older than me.
I am. I'm 26.
You're a fossil.
I am a fossil. Dude.
Washed up. But for real though, like, how does a 13-year-old process that being said to you, especially when like you weren't expecting to get that news that day? You know what I mean? Like, like how does anyone? I
don't think anyone ever expects that.
How does anyone process that? And so, what was the next few months after that look like, if you can remember?
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like in the beginning, like, this is a hard part about grief and losing someone. I don't know if you I'm sure you can probably relate to, like, but I feel like it's the part that no one really talks about. So, like, those first few weeks after, you're surrounded by people. Like, people were in and out of my house for the first, like, 2-3 weeks. In and out. I'm talking, like, my cousins, my cousins' friends, my friends, like, my mom's work friends. We had people dropping off food. We always had a good relationship with, like, the people that worked at Santucci's because it's literally my corner. They were dropping off pizzas, like, every hour. So, like, we had an influx of food. We had an influx of people coming in and out the house. And it was, like, that was helpful because it helped distract us, in a sense. And then it was like, okay, after, like, 2-3 weeks, that fades out. And everyone kind of just, like, goes back to their regular
normal life, yeah.
And it's like, you can't blame them. But then it's like, okay, well, what now? And it's almost like it just comes and goes, like, in the blink of an eye. And I feel like that's one of the parts of, like, losing people that doesn't really get discussed. Like, okay, so what's the next steps? And like you said, at 13, like, you don't ever expect that to happen. I don't think you expect to lose a parent at any point in your life.
Ever.
Obviously, unless when you're older, you obviously eventually know that things can happen, but like at that point in time, like, no. And like, I feel like I've always just been more mature. That especially obviously made me more mature too. But I like actively remember, like, being at the funeral and stuff. We had an open casket, and I remember, like, looking at him and, like, you have to go. I don't, like, know.
I don't know.
So when you go, like, when your immediate family, you go, if it's an open casket, you have to go before the viewing. And you have to, like, pick out an outfit. You have to then approve of what they look like. And they're never obviously going to look how they would look if they're alive. But I remember he looked so gray. And I was like, you have to put more makeup on him. And they, like, and then later that night, we had, and it was at Burns Funeral Home, my dad's viewing and funeral. And we had lines literally wrapped around the block. Like, he just knew so many people. And I remember everyone being like, how is she doing this? Because I wasn't, like, necessarily standing up front, but I was, like, walking through the line and, like, thanking everyone for coming. But then I remember, like, so I still remember it was a Thursday night that we did the viewing. And then the second part of the viewing was Friday morning. And then from there, you go to the church, you do the actual funeral. And then after that, you either go to the cemetery if they're being buried, or, like, if they're being cremated, you leave from there. And I remember being at the funeral home, like, before we went to, like, the funeral itself. And I like, till this day, like, I can't look at an open, like, I really can't, like, it's
like a PTSD.
When I looked at my dad, like, I still I was still swearing at anything he opened his eyes. And, like, everyone was like, no. And I was like, no, like, he's fine. Like, and I think part of it is probably, you know, your mind's kind of all over the place, but also it kind of can happen because the body's still kind of moving at that point. So, like, whether it was in my mind, something moved and, like, his eye moved, like, you never know. But, like, yeah, still to this day, like, I'll just, like, I can't. Like, my pop passed December of 2020, and I remember, like, I had to walk up and just, like, kind of walk away. Like, I just can't do it. But, yeah, like, moving forward from that, I guess, obviously, it was, like, a week off of school. And then, again, you obviously know how I am. Like, I think part of my hesitation towards coming on the podcast at first, too, was that, like, I've never wanted someone to look at me different because of my past. Obviously, losing my dad has shaped me a lot into who I am, but I don't think that it defines me, if that makes sense. And, like, I don't want, like, people being like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry for you. Like, I never want someone to be like, oh, I'm so sorry for this girl. Like, this happened. I'm like, it sucks. It's absolutely horrible. But at the same point in time, like, I don't know, shit happens to everyone.
Right.
So, you know, I kind of just look at it in that way, I guess.
Right.
And then moving forward with it, like, I remember going back to school and everyone being, like, kind of, like, on edge, like, not knowing what to say to me. And I was like, okay, like, so what did I miss? Like, when can I take these tests? And my teacher's like, no, like, don't worry about that. And I was like, no, like, I know I missed a test last week. Like, when can I make it up? And I just kind of wanted to get back to, like, things in normal, I guess.
That's your personality.
Yeah, definitely. Very much so.
Yeah, and what I can say about that is you don't ever one of the reasons why I wanted you on the podcast isn't because you know I know you're one of the strongest girls I know. Like you're very passionate about what you're passionate about, and you're also very strong. You've been through a lot of shit, and I think the thing that sticks out to me most is that people can learn from your experience. Same thing they learn from Rob's experience.
Yeah,
and it's more so the people who aren't as strong as you at that moment. They see someone who has been through it, especially it's been 10 years. They can see how they processed, how they moved on, and how they not necessarily moved on, but you know what I'm talking about, carried on with their life. And they can relate to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's definitely an issue too. Like I'm not going to get into super specifics here.
No.
But I've spoke with you about, you know, certain family situations where, you know, it's not that you're necessarily moving, and I know that you can relate from this. Like, you're never moving on from the death. Like, it's not something that you just get over. Like, it's always with you. But at the same point in time, like, and this is, I think, universal for anyone. A death can either define you if you let it, or you can use that and, like, choose to, like, move forward with it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like,
adapt.
Right. Yeah.
Like, for me, I knew that my dad wanted more for me. Like, I knew that he wanted me to go on to college. I knew that he wanted, like, me to make more money and, you know, have a stable life and do all of the things that he didn't necessarily get the chance to do. And that was always something that we talked about. So, like, for me, I used that to push myself forward. Like, even from a young age, like, I remember in, like, 5th grade, obviously my dad was still around and my mom was still around, and I got my first ever B. Like, I was always an all-A student, and I got my first ever B.
Not
and
the
I,
B.
And I cried.
Not the B.
No, I cried.
I'm, like, happy if I get a B. Like,
my mom came home, and I was like, it was, like, the first report card conference I didn't go to, and my mom walked in, and I was like, how did I do? And she was like, you did great. Like, you got all A's in one B. And I was like, what? And I literally started hysterical crying. Like, no joke, start crying. My mom starts making fun of me. But, like, that was always something. I was always more harsh on myself.
Right.
Which, you know, it's just how I am in general. Like, I'm always hard on myself.
Yeah.
Not you.
Not mad at being hard on
not
yourself.
mad at being hard on yourself.
But you hold yourself to a higher standard, which is a good thing.
But
as
I
you should, though.
that to excel.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that with something like that with your dad, it can either make or break a lot of people, and a lot of times it puts you in a survival mode. So, you know, you think of like I was actually listening to a podcast, and there was talking about this kid who like has like everything. His dad is loaded. He's never had to work for anything in his life, and he would say like, "Listen, I'd rather struggle to get what I want, just because like whenever I do get something, it means absolutely nothing. Because how do you like feel something, or how do you thankful for something that you can get no matter what? You know, you have to work for everything you've gotten. Yeah. And I know Rob, I know you can relate to that too. You can speak on that as well. Like for both of yous, that moving on process and I guess Rob can start first, but did you have a chip on your shoulder going forward, like thinking that I need to do this for him, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know. I say like the fire department fell on my lap, and like that's just like I got in. You know what I mean? Like it was only June 18th to July 10th. Like July 10th, I joined. You know what I mean? Like it was right there.
Your anniversary's coming up.
I know, it'll be 12 years.
Yeah, it's going on.
12 long years.
You're really old.
Thanks.
That's the only thing she got from
That's
it.
You're really old.
I'm kidding. I'm proud of you.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it you know, you for me, you see a lot. You know what I mean? And especially like them situations, like You know, it doesn't ever trigger nothing, but it definitely makes you.
It's there.
It's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the call is. It's always going to be there. But it's like that motivation just kept me going. You know what I mean?
And what about you? Like, did you feel like you had a chip on your shoulder at all?
Like doing things for him, you mean? Or
yeah, like everything you do, you're like, I'm gonna do my best at it because that's what my dad want me to do.
Yeah. Like Rob said, like it's yes and no. You know, you kind of create your own path, but at the same point in time, you want to do things for them because they're no longer here to do it.
Right.
Again, for me, like school kind of was one of the things that like we always talked about. So like I did use like him as my motivation. You know, a lot of people would have given up. Like, and I commend my mom for this all the time too. Like, I am so and you know my mom. You know my mom's amazing. Like,
yeah, I love her.
She's the best. Like, I couldn't picture like being where I am had I not had my mom as my mom.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone would have been able to take on raising 3 kids on their own and never looking elsewhere, you know?
Yeah.
So she really, you know, I think watching, and that's another thing, like kind of how you said, like me and Rob, we've worked towards everything that we've gotten. You know, I've started babysitting when I was 13. Like I've never wanted to ask my mom for money, things like that. But I think, you know, watching her struggle, but seeing her make sure that we always had whatever we wanted.
Right.
Like,
yeah, she
provided. Like she really stepped up to the plate. And so like, not even just, and like, you might be able to relate to this too. Like your parents now lost a kid. So it's like, okay, you want to make sure that like you're like making them even more proud now because you have to like almost fill that void in a sense.
I went down that road.
Right.
My high school years were that way where I didn't give one shit about nothing.
Just didn't care.
I didn't care. And then I was just failing and whatever. Then that's when they sat me down. They were like, we're not going to send you to a school that it's like $10,000 more.
You're just going to fuck it up.
And you're just going to go inside and be an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, and that was like, oh shit. Like,
your eye opener.
Get it.
Wow.
Get,
you know what I mean? Like you gotta do something. You know what I mean? And like I say this all the time, living's a dying process. So once you get past that, like the grievance part where like, you know, they die and then everyone comes over and then like they're buried and life goes on. Like you have, you know, whether it's you, me, Kev, or whoever, like you have to move on. If you don't move on and you get stuck, life's gonna be rough for you. It's gonna be a long road. Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that they get stuck in these
victim mentality.
Right. And they're like, oh, you know, blah blah blah. And it's like, yo, like lift yourself up. Yeah. The people that passed, and like God rest everyone's soul that passed. You know what I mean? Like whether they were right, wrong, or indifferent. Like God put you on this earth, to do something. You don't know what it is. But he put you on this earth to do something. Right. So go do it. Whatever it is. Figure it out. It's not going to, it might not come to you in writing. You know what I mean? You're going to find it. And when you do find it, run with it. Do what you got to do. Because if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. You know what I mean? Exactly. You got to do it.
Exactly. We could go. I was
going to say to go off that, like, I literally just had that conversation tonight in Kensington. Like, obviously, you know, there are certain people that I've grown really close relationships with out there that I want better for. And, you know, one of them tonight, and I'm not going to obviously mention names, but, you know, was saying how they have nothing to live for and they just want to go, like, be in an afterlife with the people that they've lost. And I'm like, you're here for a reason. You're living out in the streets of Kensington. You could have died, but like you're obviously still here for a reason. And like Rob said, like you have to continue to live your life. Like, and then you mentioned like that victim mentality. A lot of people kind of take that route because it's almost the easier route out.
It's an easier route.
It's the easy way
and it's just like you have to overcome that
because you don't have to face any of your demons, and that goes with grieving. That goes with addiction. That goes with weight loss. It goes with like the second you realize you have to sit and face that demon by yourself. It's one of the loneliest paths in the world. But once you actually take that step and you start taking those steps and you pursue it and you realize, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. You know, it's gonna weave people out of your life, which is lonely and depressing. But then it's gonna bring the right ones in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's something I think a lot of people are facing now, especially with the pandemic and just where the world is in general. With, you know what I mean? Like, we just lost somebody at Lumpy's the other day. Like, literally, someone got shot at Lumpy's. Like, it's fucking insane.
God rest.
PB&R. Actually.
PB&R. Yeah. Right. I noticed Lumpy's, but
God rest her soul too, man. 21.
What was her name?
Jaylene.
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 It's terrible. Like, and I think
that's horrible.
Part of, you know, Philly is obviously one of the biggest hotspots with drug addiction, with shootings, with like gun violence
now
in
more
general.
Than ever.
And it's just like, it's continuing to get worse. And it's like, okay, when is it going to change? And, you know, I think that, you know, part of our mission with like the Grace Project and why I love the Grace Project so much is that, you know, and people ask me this all the time, like, well, do you think it's ever going to change out there? And I'm like, right now, no. But, like, you have to have people who are willing to provide that hope and help, you know, make people realize that there is something on the other side, you know? Like, there is always something to look forward to. Yeah. And especially right now, it's really hard to see that. Yeah. Because the people that are homeless out in Kensington right now, like, there's being no changes made on a government level. Like, our city's ignoring it, basically. Yeah. Our city's also ignoring gun violence. Like, how many children are going to continue to die? There was the shooting the other night. Yeah. There was over the summer, like a few blocks from me, there was a 15-year-old son who got shot in the head from a stray bullet walking out to his car to get a case of water. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, when is enough enough?
There's more rights on a woman's body than there is for guns. Like, think about that. Yeah. Like, that's insane. How you doing?
Good.
I hate when he does that.
So, do you have any role models in your life?
I guess I would say my mom. You know, as I already kind of touched on, you know, the way that she kind of just excelled with everything. And then, yeah, I guess it would kind of be her. I mean, I know that that's kind of cliche because a lot of people look up to their parents. But
I wanted to ask, like, dive into that. What makes your mom so special? What makes her the woman that she is?
I guess her resilience, like, is what stands out the most to me. You know, as we've mentioned, losing someone isn't easy. And, like, for her, it's like, okay, she now has to, like, she has 3 kids, like, with my dad, you know, and she had to take on the role of just being the sole parent. And she did it in such a almost seemingly, like, easy way. Obviously, I know that, like, it wasn't easy on her, but she did everything still. Like, we never missed a sport practice. Like, you know how athletic my brothers are. Like, they did every single sport. I, you know, kind of only stuck to soccer. But, you know, we still always went to everything. And so, I think her resilience, you know, she used to work overnight shifts, or then she would switch to the day shift. Like, she's always kind of switched her schedule around to make sure that we were taken care of and she could attend our events and things like that. And I think that like really stuck out to me, just because, you know, it makes you like, not everyone is blessed to have good parents. I had 2 great parents, and then one was taken, but then I had one who just continued to, like, become even better. So I think, I would say resilience for sure is what kind of makes her stand out.
If you really sit and think about it, instead of, you know, maybe for a week or a month, I don't know what the process was, but she ramped it up. You know, anyone who lost a parent or lost a husband or a wife, they have every single right to just be like, I'm gonna be a deadbeat, you know, or just break from it. And instead, she turned it up, you know, and to even actively not pursue another partner is a lot too, because I mean, everybody wants somebody, you know. So for me personally, I just think, like, for her, like, what are some of the, like, there's dark times she went through, and there's things that she might probably went through that no one's ever seen. You know, it just goes to show, like, your mom is a very strong and amazing woman. You know, and I saw that even at the wedding too, just because, like, she's always just happy. You know, she puts on an amazing, like, it's not like a persona, but it's like she's very happy and she's a good energy to be around. Like, she wants to drink teas, like, she wants to do all this stuff. You know what I mean?
She wants
to
have fun.
Yeah, and it's just so good to be around.
Don't talk about them.
But I really do. I'm just curious of just what she
Yeah.
is going through, you know, and I also wanted to ask you too, like, what are some of the darkest times you might have been through that you can remember? Like,
I think, like, you know, like I've seen my mom break down, but I think that's another thing that makes her as unique as she is. She's never like wanted to break down in front of us, especially when we were younger, because she didn't want to like come off as weak looking. And, you know, I think that too, and like I'm going to kind of stray off of this question a little and I'll come back to it, but like, you know, the role model thing, like even like Meg, for example, I would honestly like consider her another role model. I think that the way that she faced her addiction and overcame it, like just like proves to me, like for me, I've always said, like once I decided that I wanted to go the route that I was going with school and wanted to be an addiction counselor and like wanted to help make a difference in that community, getting involved with the Grace Project and like really seeing how much it can come full circle, you know, she's kind of just validated for me that, you know, even with one person, if I can only make a difference in one person's life while counseling, I mean, I hope I make a difference in more than one, but like
for sure.
in just one person, like that can have such a trickle effect down and like affect so many other people. So like that was really good to know. And then like she was mentioning today again when we were out in Kensington, you know, she was like, my family didn't speak to me for a year. And I think that that's part of addiction too. And this is why I kind of went off a little bit to this route. You know, when you lose someone from an overdose or to addiction, like it's so easy to be angry. Like part of the grief stages is anger. And that's in obviously any grief stage, but with addiction, it's almost, you know, and like with the stigma associated with it, it's so easy for people to be like, well, this was their choice. And I feel like as I grew older and got more, you know, started learning, and I obviously now completely view addiction as a disorder. It kind of frustrates me when people say that it's a choice, you know, because do I think that my dad would have chosen to have used drugs to, you know, never, my brother's about to start college on a football scholarship. He's probably going to start, like, he started at LaSalle College High School as a freshman, like, with football. Like, do I think that he would have wanted to miss these things? You know, Scott graduating, Scott doing what he's doing now with work, like, how he is, like, he's just such, like, a caring person. Or me becoming the first person in our family to go through college. Like, I don't think that he would have ever chosen, like, to miss those things.
No, absolutely
But,
not.
like, you know, and I saw my mom go through this a lot when I was younger, too, like, being angry. Because it's like, why would you leave me?
Right.
And I think that that was something that, like, she struggled with a lot, kind of going back and forth. And I think that you still kind of can have those days sometimes where she's like, fuck you almost, because it's like, why did you do this?
Right.
But so, like, I would say, you know, dark times. And then, like, I know, like, so this, I don't want to, like, get too much about my brothers because I don't want, you know.
It's okay, yeah.
But this past year, Chris's senior year, like, he played at the University of Penn against Prep, like, thousands of, fans in the stands. And I remember him even, like, just walking on the field and, like, texting, and, like, we have a family group chat, like, me, my mom, and my brothers. And I remember him being like, Dad would have loved this. Like, I so wish he could have been here. And, like, that broke me and my mom. And I think, you know how I am with my brothers. Like, those are my babies. Like, everyone's like, those are your babies? Like, they're 6'3", 6'4".
You look like the baby.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't care. Those are my babies. Like, no, like, and, like, Chris will, like, jokingly, like, or, like, slip up and be like, Mom, to me, like, half the time. And I'm like, not your mom. Like, and we joke about it. But, like, you know, obviously I kind of stepped up and, like, helped with them a lot. So we have, like, a really good relationship. But I think, you know, some of the darkest times for me and my mom, and obviously my mom more so too, because she really experiences it with me. I think I'm really good at kind of, like, getting through bigger occasions and being like, yeah, I wish he was here, but, like, he's not, and it sucks. But, you know, it is what it is. But I think as a mom, she has to feel that worse.
Mom,
and she doesn't talk about it, like, you know, she doesn't, like, because that's another thing. Like, when your kid's, like, going through an accomplishment, you don't want to bring up their dead parent. Like, it's not something you want to bring up.
You want to make it about them.
Yeah. So, you know, and she's been great with that. And, like, but I know, like, there's been, like, instances where we'll be like, damn, like, he should be here watching my brothers. And, like, I've written articles, like, about that. Like, he should be here to see this stuff. And, like, I feel like some of those times are, like, the darkest because it's just, like, you miss them, and it's just like, well, fuck.
Yeah, and I think the ultimate thing is to understand that who is present for that to happen.
Right.
You know, like Scott's there to see Chris play. You're there to see Chris play. Your mom's there to see Chris play. Yeah, that's important. You know, and it sucks. Like, yeah, like you do want your dad to be there, but at the same time, it's like he's watching. You know, but
he's here right now.
He's here right now. Yeah.
Got him in this necklace.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what's super important that I've begun to realize, especially with your relationship, is I realize how close you guys really are. Yeah. And I see how much they mean to you. And it's like you did to a degree have to step up. And Scott calling your mom isn't an accident. You know, you stepped up and like because what happens when you lose somebody. It's like who do you turn to, right? And it's like you guys had each other to turn to, you know, as many people coming in and out for 3 weeks, and then guess what? It's you guys, you know. Yeah. So I can't even, I understand, I can sympathize with that, and and just see that you guys needed each other when you need each other the most, and your dad's here, he sees everything, and it's just in a different way, it's all about your perspective on it. I don't know, like. In terms of your brothers, have they been vocal to you about their feelings at all? You don't have to get too specific, but
they don't. Scott more so than Chris, but still, the both of them don't really talk too much about it. As I've mentioned to you, as I've mentioned, I think multiple times to anyone. Like again, I'm not like gonna sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, my dad died." Like. That's not me.
You never done
like,
that. Though.
So, but like if someone asks like, oh, like where's your dad? Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like I'm gonna explain. But I feel like out of my family, I've been obviously the most open about it. And that's why when you asked me to come on here, I said yes. But then I was like, I just want to make sure that my brothers are okay with it.
Yeah. What'd they say?
Yeah, they were. Well, I remember I texted in our family group chat, and then I was like, did you guys see what I said? And they were like, and my mom was like, she's talking about what you and Chris were talking about. And Scott was like, yeah, we said we don't care. And I was like, okay. But, like, I think 2 years ago, if you had asked me to sit here, they would have freaked out and be like, no, why are you talking about this? Yeah. So, like how Rob just said, it comes with time. It does come with time. I think that for them, it really is, something that's coming along as they're getting older.
Have you ever talked about it, like, together?
Yeah. Like, it's not something that, like, isn't discussed. Like, Chris has
talked. It's not a topic of conversation. I get that. But
yeah, Chris has talked to us about it. Scott has talked to us about it. There's been moments where, like, they get in a big fight. And, like, I feel like I'm almost like our family mediator at times. But, like.
That's wild. That you're the mediator.
I know.
How is that wild?
Yo, could you imagine a world?
No, but like we've definitely discussed it. Like you said, it's not something you talk about every day, but like there's everyone goes through times where, and I mentioned this to you at the wedding. 2020, right before COVID happened. We were at my cousin whose wedding we went to, her brother's wedding.
Okay.
And they had the father-daughter dance. And then they said, can all father-daughters come onto the dance floor? And, like, I obviously wasn't going to. And Scott was like, no, man, come dance with me. So, like, they're really, like, and I feel like it's, like, a triangle almost. Like, I'm super overprotective of them. Right. But then, like, it's in the same way. They're very protective of me. Yeah. And, like, they're good with that, if that makes sense.
Because they're your rock, and then you're their rock. You know what I mean?
You guys you need each other.
We all kind of bounce off each other.
By the way, their Gigi has a huge crush on me. I gotta say.
Gigi does have a crush on you, I think.
Yeah, because she never saw me yet, dude. Get real.
Get real, dude.
That might be true.
Hey, we were dancing. We're swing dancing.
You were what?
Swing dancing. Run around Sue. Yeah, you know what, Rob? Get your head out of the gutter.
No, I wasn't even thinking like that.
Who says swing dancing? Like, what does that even mean?
Only the real.
Give us an example.
Only the real one.
Hey. Oh.
That's what you define as swing dancing?
It's like no, it's a 2-step. But I can't. I'm sitting.
Rob, get your friend.
No, that's your friend. That is your friend.
Yo, if I was,
he calls you brother Rob.
Yo, he does.
I'm gonna put an edit of the car wash, the little things. That's what Rob was like when he dances. He's the inflatable Joan at the car wash or the car dealership.
I know what you're talking about.
Put the edit in there.
Whatever, dude. Go swing dance.
Maybe I will.
Who says that?
You know what? I don't know.
But yeah, so forget what we were even talking about, but we definitely have talked about it. The boys definitely don't open up as much.
Right.
Like I said, that comes with time. Coming from a guy's
And they're guys.
I think it's different for guys,
They're
too,
guys,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I said this many times, like, nothing against girls. Like, girls are more sensitive than most
Oh
guys.
my God, I'm so offended.
You know what I mean? Like, but
Maddie's like, what?
yeah, she's like,
Like,
what?
I'm going to start crying right now.
It's one of them things. Like, girls just have that. They break down easier than a male, but like.
Okay, Rob, keep talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
I'm gonna sit this one
Just
out.
got our rights revoked when you're
I
going to
know,
keep going.
sorry.
No kidding.
Like, I don't know if, like, even for me, like, I was that strong body.
Their
so, like,
willingness to open up, because I think guys have more pride. Where they're
and
like,
that's the thing.
they're like,
So, like, Chris and Scott, like, if they're watching, like, it's gonna come with time.
Yeah.
Whenever they're,
Yeah.
whenever they're ready, they're gonna open up about it and let them talk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The problem is people pressure into talking about things, and then it
Yup.
doesn't help anybody.
yep.
Like,
For
if
sure.
someone were to sit here and pressure you, like, when it first happened, yeah, I would expect you to snap, and especially them to snap. You know what I mean? Like, hey, they might not want to talk about it for another 10 years,
Right.
but guess what? That 11th year, they're going to be like, all right, you know what? Like, now I want to talk about it a little
Yeah,
bit. You know
it's
what I mean? And
definitely
let them open
started.
up. They're going to get older. I mean, how old are they?
18 and 19.
18, 19?
Okay, Kev, answer for me.
No, I specifically remember because
Kev's like, yeah, I remember your brother's age.
Yeah.
no, I specifically remember.
Did they go to
He's
Coldplay?
like, they're my brothers.
I don't know,
actually.
Rob. Did they? Something you would know.
I know. But, like, like I said, it'll come with time. And, like, for you, you have that time now. Like,
Yeah.
you're at that
I was also
time.
older at the point in time. Like, they don't remember as much. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
like, I think that it's a little bit harder, too. Like, how do you, at 8 years old, process losing a parent? Like,
Yeah.
you don't. That's
No.
not
And it's
something
it's
that's,
not right. You're not
like,
built for that.
with, like, the development of your brain, you're not built to,
Yeah.
like, get over that type of thing at that age. But, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, even you, like, you were still young, but you were the oldest of them. So to a degree, you do have to be the strongest, or you at least feel the responsibility of being the strongest.
And they're never going to forget that.
Yeah.
For
Like,
sure.
at all.
We're
So,
really
like,
close. I feel like, obviously, partially because of that. Like, you know how close my family is.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
me and my mom and my brothers, like,
But that's
I
good.
would do anything
You want
for
to
them,
keep
you
that.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
My hat goes off to you. I'm dead ass. Like, you're going to be a great
Your hat?
mommy one day when you have a little one.
Thanks.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. You're a strong girl.
No, yeah.
Like,
Aw,
I loved
thanks,
you a lot, but now I love you even more. So,
Mom. Aw, love
feel
you too.
loved.
So I don't know if I asked earlier, but you guys, I know specifically you two, tend to, or at least I can say for Rob's sake, tended to, like, not, you avoid it in a way. Because I remember when we were, like, talk about it before, you never really opened up about it. You, like, avoided, or you acted, you kind of, like, you know, when you went
I
up
know
to
what you're
school,
talking about.
you're like, oh, let me know, where are these tests? Let me take these tests. Like, where do you think that came from? Was that just, like, you got to move on, or was it you trying to cover it up? What was the reasoning behind that? Because that's, like, most people be like, listen, like, I need some time, but instead you're just like, nah, I gotta keep pushing. Like, where did that, was that just like
You want to
Go
go? You want
ahead.
me to?
Yeah.
I think that, like, what you're saying also kind of translates into me texting you being like, I would feel comfortable if it's Rob here with me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, obviously me and Rob have gotten close kind of because of our friendship, and then I met Rob, and
Yeah.
you know, but I feel like me and Rob have, you know, similar mindsets in that we don't necessarily discuss it right away. You know, it's not something that we're like, oh, hey,
Right.
as Rob, like, I lost my brother, and me, oh, I lost my dad. No, like, it's
Right.
not something like we feel the need to, like, bring up, but, like, it's
Yeah.
not something that we hide from.
Right.
I know, like, for me, I obviously won't speak for you, but, you know, wanting to get back into things doesn't stem from, like, wanting to avoid the situation, but it stems more so from understanding that, okay, yeah, this sucks and it hurts like hell,
Yeah.
but I need to continue to live my life.
You're not letting
like
it
Rob
control
said.
you. You're not gonna let it control you.
Like Rob mentioned earlier, you know, you have to continue to live your life. Like,
Right.
so it's kind of like that. I feel like you just know that you have to keep doing what you're doing and, like, push forward.
It's a young age to realize that, though. You know, 13.
Pretty mature, Kevin. Okay.
Some aspects, yes. But no, what about you? Was it just
The same thing. I mean, like I said, life goes on.
Right.
Like my dad told me that from a young age. Like life goes on, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like even now, like when people saw the pod when we did it for my brother, ton of people reached out, whatever, and I'm grateful for it. You know what I mean?
God,
But then there was some people. Oh, you're gonna get it, but there's gonna be people that come up to you and they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, like I didn't know." And it's like that awkward, like you know what I mean?
Literally,
like that awkward.
I'm like, ugh, like cringing already at you saying
and
it.
then people say like, "Oh, I'm
hate it.
sorry."
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Is it not the most awkward thing ever?
I just say, "Don't worry about it." I'm dead serious.
I
Don't
say
worry
it's
about
fine.
it. Yeah, it's fine. Like you didn't know. So
told my
don't.
mom before. I like laughed when someone was like, "Oh my god, I had no idea," and she's like,
Jesus.
"What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like I feel so like I hate when people
Okay,
say it.
it can also
Yeah.
be
And
a
like
way
I
of
get
coping.
that it's like
okay,
you know the polite or like right thing to do,
Yeah.
like say, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry for your loss," but it's like, what am I supposed to
It's
say?
also
to that?
how
I'm
many-
like, thank you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's also how
It's
many
awkward.
times are you just gonna have that conversation, or how many times are you gonna talk about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Maddie, I wanted to ask you, what is some
That's a question, Rob. Actually,
Madison? You're our guest today. Now I wanted to ask, what is one of the most? What is something? What's the most important thing that your dad taught you? That if you can remember, because you were young. But
you love saying "if you can remember," and then every time you say that, I'm like, "Oh
But
yeah."
she-
So this.
yeah, but she's like on this day, like she's one of those girls. Like at the text message, like at this time.
I'm like, actually, I've received.
Yeah.
No, I think obviously I'm very book smart, and I think that stems a lot from my dad. And also just he was a very straightforward person.
That's
and I
where you
think-
get it from.
Yeah.
Oh brother.
God.
Oh, it really is.
Jesus.
My mom will say it all the time, like we all take aspects from him, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're your dad. Like, just shut up." Sometimes I'm like, "No," because I'm gonna speak what's on my mind.
Right.
But I think that kind of comes from him. He told me never, be afraid to speak your mind. Like, and like like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, he always wanted better for me. So I feel like because of him, I've kind of always had it instilled to me to never settle. Like always keep reaching for what I want. Like don't just settle just because it seems like the easy route. Like, and I think that really came into play. Like when I originally went to Temple, I went into undergrad as a bio pre-med major. Down of a sort when I wanted to switch majors. But I think part of me knowing that everything would be okay was like, kind of just like remembering like not everything comes easy. You might not know necessarily what you want to do right away, but like knowing that he wanted more for me, and like he always told me, do what you want. Like there's no like, and like that's a cliche. Like a lot of parents are like, oh, you can do whatever you want, but like no, my parents never put pressure on me for anything. Like they wanted me to do whatever I wanted, and they always reminded me that like as long as I worked hard for it, I could achieve what I want.
Right.
So like kind of having that reminder from him was good.
You can do anything you put your mind to, and never let
Thanks,
anyone tell you
Rob.
differently. I'm dead serious.
Thanks, Roberto.
That's the dad. That's
the
the
dad
That's
talk.
the dad in you.
Listen, son. Nah, but also, I wanted to ask, what is the time in your life where you did feel his presence wasn't felt, if that makes sense? Like, where was that one point in your time? How you kind of mentioned your brother's game at Penn. What was that time for you?
I feel like every graduation hits a little different. Like I was in 7th grade when my dad died, so he didn't see any of my graduations. And another one, I remember 7th grade, my dad went to the father-daughter dance with me, and like I still have the shirt that like he wore to that dance, like in a bag in my room. Like it's obviously like my shirt. But I feel like 8th grade the following year, like when that time came around again, I was like, cool, like he's not here for this. So I feel like maybe then, and then obviously graduations. As I kind of mentioned earlier, though, I feel like it's not that it's easier, but it's something that you're like, okay, I don't need to dwell. But then like even me, like like I've reached out to you a few times. Like there's been moments where I have breakdowns.
Right.
Like I think everyone does. And then like now more so as I'm getting older, like there's just moments where I'm like, I can't remember his voice. And like it makes me so angry sometimes that I'm like, technology is the way it is now, but it was only just starting to get like
you
that
didn't have
when
an iPhone.
well, they just came out. I did. My dad bought me the iPhone 4 the Christmas before he passed, actually.
Oh my
But,
God.
I was spoiled. My dad spoiled me bad.
Because you were his little girl.
I was his firstborn. I was the only girl. I literally, so do you remember the backflip when that came out?
Yes.
It was only at AT&T, and you flipped it, and it had the mouse on the back, and it had the keyboard, but it was a touch screen.
Yes.
And it was like the first touch screen.
Not the
phone.
Sidekick.
No. The Sidekick didn't
Bro,
do all
no,
the
get
backflip
off the
did.
Sidekick, dude.
The backflip was great. So anyway, I freaked out. I said I wanted that. I didn't want the slide-up phone anymore. I wanted the backflip. So he bought me that in September or October. It was September because October is when the iPhones always come out, and then the iPhone 4 came out in October, and I threw a fit and started crying because I wanted the iPhone.
Not Mady crying.
So for Christmas
Daddy,
that year, what did I get under the tree?
An iPhone.
The iPhone 4.
Thanks, Dad.
But like those were just becoming a thing, and like
Right.
I think a part of like the anger is like people now, like I have videos of my pop, like I can hear my pop's voice as long as I want, like I have it in my Snapchat memories, like
Right.
whereas like now I'm
can't
like
hear your dad's.
like I have a video of when it's from like those home camera things, and it's literally when Scott was being born in the hospital. And my dad, I think I'm holding Scott, and you just hear my dad. You don't see him in the video, and it's literally like a 3-second video, and he's like, "Say what's up, Reese," which is like one of their friends, and then I say, "What's up, Reese?" But like and then you hear him laugh, and like I have that video saved. I put it on Facebook so that I can never lose it because with phones sometimes you lose your videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I have that, and like I'll always just like randomly play that when I start freaking out because I'm like, it sucks. Like it's been 10 years. Like sometimes I'm like luckily I do have pictures, but like those types like situations like that, you really miss their presence because you're like, oh my God, like how did you sound again?
Right. Yeah. Is that what you use whenever you are struggling, that video?
Yeah, I'll play it. And then we also have like from the viewing like a slideshow, and it's like 15 minutes long, and like I have my own song, like The Climb by Miley Cyrus. Like anytime I hear that song I cry because in that video it's all pictures of just me and my dad. And then there's pictures of just my mom and my dad, and then there's pictures of all of us, and there's pictures of just my brothers and my dad, and then there's like pictures of like my dad like and his friends and whatnot. But yeah, that video, like me and my mom will randomly pull out like on his anniversary or like his birthday, times where it hits a little bit harder, I guess you would say.
Yeah. But no, seriously though, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate opening up and sharing and just being vulnerable. And I think the most important thing is that I also do genuinely think that people who do struggle with what you guys go through can learn something from that and take something from what you've said. Yeah. Because of how strong you are in your mindset and how you and your family persevere. You guys stay close together. You've gotten closer together. And just the kind of people you become. You take on somewhat of a mother role figure. Just being so supportive of your brothers. Like in the beginning, I never really understood it. I was like, oh yeah, this is your brothers, yeah. But I was like, I never cheered that hard for my sister when she was playing. But you like seriously,
I'm like, don't touch my brother.
But you realize more now that it's like you do realize that family's all you got. You have your friends, but they also can become your family too. But like for your family, your real ones, your blood and the people that are close to you, that's all you got. And I think I've learned.
I hold those three, obviously.
Yeah.
On like a pedestal.
Yes.
I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's the most important thing that I've learned from being, you're like being close with you, like, and it kind of taught me to like not take things for granted. I'm blessed to have the family I have. I mean, relative. It's subjective, but I think you were 13 when you lost your dad, and I think that and you were very young too.
I was 13.
Exactly. Yeah.
Twins.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why
we're so close.
That's why I relate to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that enough times passed where you guys have it happened. You felt the pain and the grief, and then you carried on with your life. You found a way to carry on. You found a way to move on and not move past it, but just be able to learn from what you've been through and channel in a different way. You playing with the cable, you weirdo. Yeah. But you know what I mean. You guys had enough time passed where you have it. You now have a little bit of like a foundation of like what you learned and able to help somebody else who just maybe just lost their dad,
Right.
or just lost their brother, or, you know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing that.
When you got angry, right? Like, did you? How am I gonna word it? Like, I went through a part in my life where I was just constantly angry.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I was. I was mad,
Mm-hmm.
mad, and mad.
Mad at the world.
That's it.
Did you have any of that phase or no?
I went through a phase, and I actually just recently opened up to Meg about this not too long ago, where, I was like, why him?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was a good dad. He was actively involved. Like, why him? There's so many, like, I remember, like, vividly being, like, when this first happened, being like, there's so many deadbeat dads. There's so many guys who, like,
Right.
this could have happened to, why him? And being
Right.
so angry at that.
Right.
And, like, I remember being like, God, you're not real, because why would you do this to me? Like,
Mhm.
You kind of go through those emotions of, like, why? Like, why him? Why now? Like, why me?
Right.
I don't think I ever went through a period where I was just angry. I
What
think
was
I
your
kind
emotions?
of coped with that very well. I think I kind of, was always a mixture of mad and sad,
Right.
if that makes sense. And again, I feel like that's probably a difference between guys and girls too,
Yeah.
because, it's easier for guys to just be angry and, like, be mad at the world, like you
Right.
said, like, and then whereas for me, like, I think had I been, like, an only child, I would have been more mad, but for me, like, I just knew that I had to kind of step up and, like, yeah, I could be mad, but, like, I still had my brothers to think of, and, like, I still had, like, things to do for him. So I feel like I channeled and held on to that a lot more
Yeah.
than being angry at
You had
that.
more you had responsibility to realize, hey, like,
Yeah.
to a degree, this is a bit bigger than myself, or
Yeah,
or,
for sure.
or I can't afford to fall off, or
Like, I was angry, don't get me wrong. Like, of course you're going to be angry. Like, I
Yeah.
just mentioned, like, I was like, why him? Like, and I think that was what I held on to for so long. And then I was, like I mentioned in the beginning of the pod, like, I blamed myself for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there was, anger at myself. Like,
Yeah,
why did I not do something?
You'll go through that.
Yeah.
I still go through it.
Yeah, that,
It randomly
just
hit you.
randomly hit
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
yup.
that's normal. I
Always.
actually didn't even get to hit on that when you said that. That's like some from the people I've talked to who have lost somebody. It's like a very normal reaction, but at the same time, it's not necessarily the right reaction in terms, because at the end of the day, like, there isn't anything you could have really said to change it. Just because you already gave your love to them, enough of them. Imagine what your mom thinks, right?
Yeah.
And your mom is probably the best wife in the world, probably the best, best partner in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, and I'm talking to myself at this point, because you already know, like, it's like you understand that it, like, addiction and then there's demons, like,
Yeah.
it's them. It starts with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not necessarily like,
And you've heard me say that in Kensington how
Right.
many times. Like,
Right.
as much as I want this for the people that I'm forming connections with, it doesn't matter what I want.
right.
It has to come from within them. And then,
Right.
when they bring up, oh, well, my kid. And I'm like, it can't even be about your kid.
Yeah.
I wish it could be about your kid,
It can
but that
be
could be enough.
an
It can't.
inspiration, but it's not enough.
It has to be
Yeah.
you. It has to be you that want it. And then, it kind of
Do you-
stems from there.
This might be a little deep, but do you know how his addiction started?
Addiction, like, without getting
Yeah,
too
I got
personal
you.
with family, it runs deep in my family.
I got you.
I've lost multiple family members due to addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So he, kind of just started. It was around him growing up,
Right.
He's hung around the wrong people.
So Northeast, man.
Yeah, right. Northeast is a toxic place.
That's why you
Yeah.
gotta get out.
Exactly.
I hate this thing.
One
too.
day. Enough, Robert.
It sucks.
I gave you a side, this side or that side. He chose that side.
Because Maddie wanted me on this side too.
All right, fair
Okay.
enough.
All right.
I said, can you please sit with me, Rob?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We said, let Kev be alone.
I'm a lone wolf.
You are.
Came in this world alone. I'll leave it alone.
What else is new?
I actually came in with a twin sister, but
Oh, you actually shared the
11
room.
we're 11 minutes apart, but
Wait, who's older?
she is by 11
Yeah,
minutes.
that makes sense.
Really?
Makes sense. Yeah, right. Get real, dude. I had enough of you too.
His favorite people in
I
the
know.
world, so it's fine.
Yeah. He lives on, and so you've been so, like, proactive in, like, that field you know, and I think that it clearly shows how passionate you are and how good of a job you do and how well you communicate. Would you just throw something?
There's a fuzzy.
You're such a weirdo. he's like ADHD or whatever. The littlest things.
Sorry.
It's fine. But as I was saying, I was just saying that, like, you can tell how passionate you are, and, you know, the way you're able to communicate with people who do struggle with addiction. You know, I've noticed, like, obviously out in Kensington with those people, it's just obvious how passionate you are about it, and I think your dad will be very proud, and I think he is part of the reason why you are so passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, you know, that you lost him, but at the same time, you're at a point where it's like you need to be like, listen, I have a gift, you know, I have an ability and a desire and a passion to want to help others who struggle with addiction the way my dad did.
Right.
And that's just the best way to look at it, you know, because you can sit for hours and think, what if, or I didn't do it right, or I didn't do it enough.
And that comes in waves.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Being mad at yourself, and I could have did this, or I could have did that. Like,
yeah, it's perfectly normal.
And
though.
it really speaks on the, like, and this is such a cliche saying that I used to get so mad at before, like, but now I'm like, no, it's true. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And in the moment,
Yeah.
you never know those reasons. Like,
Yeah.
like the anger, why him, why now?
Yeah.
Like, but then it's like, if that never happened to me, I don't know what I would be doing right now,
Right.
because I was so set on the medical field, bio pre-med, and I hated every second of it.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
who knows? I mean, obviously you never know, but like, who knows how I would have.
Right.
I just didn't.
Well, who knows?
speak
Who knows?
English,
Well,
but-
no. Well, who knows what you would do? But
Cut that part.
staying in. Nah, but seriously though, like, it is true. But I actually was thinking about asking you that question, but like asking somebody, like,
Wait, what question?
like, do you think everything happens for a reason? Like, obviously you're like,
Oh.
dude, like, you would, if you had a choice, your brother would be here. If you had a choice, your dad would be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in a weird way, things do happen for a reason, and it's in the beginning you never understand it, but you know it does.
You might never understand. You might go through this whole world and never understand.
Yeah,
There's parts of it that you might come to terms with,
Right.
but you'll never fully understand
Right, yeah.
why you lose someone, you know?
Exactly.
Have you come to terms with your dad's death?
Yes and no. So, again, I used to write articles for a little bit, like my junior year of college. I don't know if you remember that at all. But yeah, I wrote for Odyssey, and like one of my first articles was about my dad. And I was like, it's been, I think at that point it was 7 years or 8 years. And I remember saying, it's been this long. And like, I don't know that I've necessarily come to terms with it, but I've accepted that he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's still those moments, you know, where you're tripping yourself up, and like, I'll go, like, for a while, I used to just text my dad's phone number. Like, I would just text him. And then the one time it went blue instead of green. I was like, someone got his number, not sending these texts anymore. But yeah, so I think for the most part, I don't know. I think I've accepted it. I don't necessarily know that I've come to terms with it, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, it does. You may never come to terms with it.
Yeah.
You know, like, part of you is always going to
You can accept the fact that he's
question.
not coming. He's, you know, never coming back.
And then, you know, there's certain situations where you're like, wait, like, I remember, like, hearing my door open and swearing like it was my dad walking in, you know? Like, or, like, you see little things. Like, I'm sure there's certain things that remind you of your brother. Like,
his scent. Every once in a blue moon, I'll just,
you'll
like,
hear it.
you'll
hear his scent.
You'll get, like, I'll get, like, a smell of his cologne or whatever. You know
Like,
what
I
mean?
see butterflies, and, like, you'll see a blue butterfly, and, like, I'm like, oh, my dad.
Yeah.
Like, things, like,
It's still a
And
thing.
don't
Or,
make
like-
it. And honestly, don't make a big deal.
my dad
and it
used to
just-
do graffiti. And, like,
Okay.
every time I go to the hibachi at Penn's Landing, his tag is still on the one side of the one little box.
Oh, really?
And, like, that's always just, like, a nice little, like,
Yeah, it's a nice
as
little
my dad,
touch.
you know? Like, yeah.
Your dad was tatted.
Yeah.
Like,
No head to toe.
That's wild.
His best tattoo, my dad, was me, because it was a portrait of me, and it said, my strength.
Oh, boy.
I'm just such a great
That's
person.
so but it is interesting though. Like I lost my grandma like when I was probably around 14, 15, like 16. I think I was 16 years old. And you realize like little things that like bring that memory back, you know, whether it's like a
Do you have your grandmom's scent? I feel like that's like a lot of things people say.
No, it's it sounds weird, but my grandma, we whenever me and Haley would come over, like she would order pizza for us, and she would put on The Lion King or like Tarzan. That's why Tarzan's my favorite movie. She would always put it on.
I love Tarzan.
Dude, Phil Collins best, dude. So like that, But that movie though, it's like it brings back that memory to like that nostalgia feeling. Like you don't remember the exact like conversation, but you remember being there, like seeing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like kind of like my thing with her.
Nifty 50s does that for me because 7th grade, public flyer skate zone. I was there every Friday.
Yeah. I used to love
and
it.
my dad would always come and pick me up, and it would be our thing that we would go to Nifty 50s on the way home and get milkshakes and split spicy fries. And he would call my mom on the way home and be like, "Are the boys in bed?" Because we wouldn't get them milkshakes. Like, it was our thing. So, like, yeah, that was like, still getting, like, I still order, like, the milkshake I get. The milkshake, I don't know what I just said, from Nifty 50s that I get is what he would order. He would always get a banana fluff or another milkshake, which if you haven't had it, get it. It's so good.
I have not.
That sounds fire.
It's so good.
I know where we're going.
That was his order. It's right there, actually.
It is.
But yeah, so like I always get that now. Like I won't ever order a different milkshake from there. But like that was his order.
Things. You know what I mean? It's the little things. The only thing I can tell you, Mady, from the bottom of my heart, is like going through what you went through, except my situation was different it was with my brother, not my father. The day of his anniversaries or like holidays or whatever, like the grievance is always going to be there. You know what I mean? Like you're always going to feel that, wow, I wish this person was here or whatever.
For sure.
Only thing I could tell you is live as if they were still here and like keep bringing bring them up. Live through the good times. You know what I mean? Bring up the good times. Don't think about the bad times. And then like live through that because like that's gonna help you, and that could help your mom, and it could help both your brothers. Like you know what I mean? Like my brother's pictures out all the time. You know what I mean? And like there's plenty of times I'll just pull up a chair. You know what I mean?
Just chill.
Hey, if you come home from the bar all banged up like you normally do,
Whoa, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you're sitting there eating before you go to bed, throw his picture next to you or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
see, I write.
There you go.
Like I'll write in a journal sometimes, like, and I haven't done it recently, but just write a random letter, like, hey dad, like, and update him on my life. Like I would randomly do that.
Yeah.
And there's still times like at night, I'll just sit and talk. I'm like, I know you're up there. Like I know you
that's it.
hear me.
Yeah.
Just live through the good times. You know what I mean? Like the bad times are always going to be there. It's something that's molded in your head. Exactly.
It's always about what you have the control
over
how you remember him. And like I kind of told you, like when you said that your son asked about him
all the time.
I said you have a choice.
Oh, does he?
All the time. He just did it the other day.
Yeah, I said you have a choice. You said you can tell him, listen, your uncle was a good man. He did it. He was a good person, and and have him be remembered in a positive light. And I always think too, like, you can live through them by your actions. You doing exactly what you do, and with the addiction and that whole space.
I think it becomes part of the issue. Like I remember when I was younger, like not wanting to open up about how my dad actually died, came from like the fear that people would judge him because of the way he died. You know what I'm saying? Because I was always like, my dad was the best. He was a great dad. Like I couldn't have asked for a better dad. Like he gave us good lives, but there's so much stigma surrounding it. Yeah. Obviously now with what I want to do, I'm like, fuck the stigma. Like this is part of the issue in society.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like in the beginning, it was something that I feared. Like I don't want people viewing him any different because of that. So I never really fully opened up. Like I would just not answer the question.
I mean, you're at that age now where it's real life now.
Yeah.
It is.
People are going through that our age. When we're 13 to 15, we know when we're younger. The reality is most, if not all, kids aren't going through that, right? Like
I mean, now
it's different.
Now it's different.
10 years ago,
10 years ago,
10 years ago, it was still hidden all the time.
Exactly. It wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So it's like, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what the reaction is going to be. You know what I mean? You're in grade school, high school. You're figuring out who you are. You always want to fit in, or quote unquote. Now it's real life. People are losing people. People are losing themselves. You know what I mean? It's like real shit. So now people need to hear this shit.
Right.
They need this stuff.
And even now that you're older, like you have a story, I have a story, like Kev has
Everyone
his own
has a story.
You know what? Share them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I said this 1,000,001 times. I just had this conversation over the weekend. If 1,000 people view this podcast, right, and you help one person you did your job.
Exactly.
You made someone else.
Do I not say that to
You
you
know what
all
I
the
mean?
time with what I want to do?
But that's how you got to look at it. Like,
Yeah.
don't be like completely open about the situation, but like if
Yeah.
someone asked and they want to be a little curious, I mean, depending on who they are,
You just give them enough
you know what I mean?
to.
Give them enough.
Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly,
mean? It's
exactly.
different if it was like one of us.
There's things that.
but
And
I'm
there,
like, Rob, what are you not telling me?
yeah, and there's things that are special between you and your families, and
Right.
you know you don't obviously, but someone who's you see at a bar who asks you about they saw whether they saw the podcast or they've heard about your experience, they made it say, hey, listen, I'm going through this right now. What did you do to get through it?
Yeah.
And you just let them know.
I told you that kid made that post about me,
Yeah,
and he took the clip and made a Facebook status about me. We have no mutual friends,
yeah,
and it popped up on mine because he tagged me,
yeah.
and he
Yeah,
wanted
really?
to do like a meet and greet. He's
Yeah.
like, you kind of helped me. He's like, I really want to talk to you.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so sweet.
it resonated with people, man.
Yeah.
It's because, dude, like
You don't need that,
exactly.
but like that person reached out.
It helps.
You know what I mean?
I
Did you
listen.
meet with them?
Not yet.
Are you going to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to my I was saying I listened to my friend Carly. She just started a podcast, and hearing someone else talk about like just trying to figure life out, just trying to be not be different, but just try to figure life out. Like everyone's gonna go through shit. Everyone's gonna. I'm like, damn. I was like, that actually does help.
It's the truth.
Hearing it. So like, people opening up, sharing their stories does help a lot. So I think this is gonna help a lot of people, and I think that hopefully it helps you too. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of quote unquote closure, but just hopefully anything. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
10 years later, the podcast, what gives me closure? I'm kidding.
yeah, right.
Hey,
You never know,
I'm
right?
joking.
I mean, because I know Rob. I know he didn't ever want to talk about it. I remember we were talking about like therapy on like the one before that, and you're like, nah, I don't do therapy. I'm like,
Yeah, I was really blunt about it.
I was like, damn. I was like, all right, Roberto, like, and then we and him sat and talked about it. And he's like, you know what, Kev, like I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna open up to it. It's just.
And I think that's part of that's one of the biggest things, like allowing yourself to be open to new possibilities. Like
Yep.
you never know what can change for you. Like you never
Right.
know what might be like something that might seem at 15 like the dumbest idea ever, and something you would never do at 23 can seem like the best thing in the world for you. You
You're
know.
only 23.
So, yeah, I'm only 23. I just turned 23 in March.
Are you dead ass, Rob? You didn't know that?
No,
How old do you think she was?
like 24, 25.
Oh,
I know,
really?
I'm so mature.
She was calling you old for no reason.
Shut up, Kev.
Shut up,
When
Rob.
Kev turned 25, I was like, happy birthday, Grandpa.
He's like, you're welcome.
He was like, God.
Happy birthday, Pop Up. That's funny, but I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah,
You're going to have fun editing this because we did our wrap up the half hour ago.
It's all right.
it's all right.
Well, we got more questions. We end up talking more, but Mady, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.
I love you. Rob.
Love you.
I love you, buddy, but
Love
I
you.
love her more. Keep doing what you're doing, all right?
Rob,
Love
I
you.
appreciate you
I love
guys.
you more than him, too.
I hope so.
Editing that out. but guys, it's the Loft. I'm Kev Nichols. It's Mady Thompson. Rob Rudolph. Peace.